What's up? I can hear something going on. We knew that was going to happen, that they'd have to push another variant to try to show up the truckers as causing it.
No, we knew it was going to happen because all through this, they've been naming variants after letters in COVID. So we were just waiting for the next one. You know what I'm saying?
Everything's been pre-planned when you follow the stuff. Like it's not even guesswork. It's so predictable because they're very predictable in everything they do. I had to crawl out of bed so I didn't wake my husband up.
Wanda, someone was asking what variant it is. Do you know what the name of it is that's coming up? I think I did hear one, but I wasn't sure if it was a joke or what the heck.
Give me a second. I'll go look for it.
10-4. Morning, Care Bear. I've been just sitting here eating ketchup chips, watching the line with my cut-off snow shovel.
Omicron, but that was the one that was out before. I did read on another one too that it had a weird name. I can't find it right now.
Oh, go figure. It's called Ba 2 and 1. So Ba Black Sheep kind of thing.
Yeah, that's that's the one I found before. They're not even very creative anymore on their stuff. It's kind of hilarious.
Right? Like I looked at it right away and I was like, Ba Black Sheep.
I can't believe how easily it was to make people fear getting sick. Like um I was on a what do you call my brain's not working. Commerce where all the businesses sit on a board. Anyways, it was 2005 and they were telling us how to prepare for a virus that could become a pandemic and I just remember that meeting so well because I remember laughing thinking, "Oh yeah, like this is ever going to happen." And then as I started to read into stuff in 2015, I'm going, "Oh crap, yeah, it can happen." And then, "Oh, guess what? It did happen."
Wanda, I just posted a picture there. You need to go watch that movie if you seriously wonder what happened. And anybody that's listening, go watch that movie. I'm not kidding you. If there's two things I could tell people to watch, that's The Wave, because of what we're going through. And second of all, it's a really hard one, but we were children about our dark history of our Indigenous people. Go check them out.
Have you read into the United Nations? They had it's about 300 pages, and they talked about the one world order, and they had maps and everything in there. That's kind of what got me awake in 2015 as a farmer. I read what they had planned for us, especially beef farmers, and being a beef farmer, it was very concerning.
Well, yeah, I kind of heard something about that, but it was the New World Order or the Great Reset. That's what I was kind of following, or not following. I don't follow nobody. Anyways, yeah, something to that effect, but it seems so far off, you know what I mean? But then when you really think about it, we used to watch the Jetsons, and really, how far are we from that? And then the Simpsons, that shocked me. I'm not I don't watch cartoons like that, so I'm not into like South Park and Bart Simpson. I'll watch Family Guy once in a while. I just find that's more male humor, like with poopies and stuff, so I don't watch it. But man, are they ever like showing that they called all this like years ago, like right to a T? That makes me think it's like, yeah, no, you MFers, you plan this stuff.
I have been protesting since 2015 because I realized what they had planned for the farming, and I'm watching it come into play as they attack the beef severely because, like, the cows' farts and everything like that, and their degradation of meat, how they're cutting back on the meat, and how they're pushing fake meat, and everything that they're doing is exactly what I read about in 2015. And I believe it's 2030. They are trying to create a vegan world, and they were modifying a grain to grow worldwide, which is kind of interesting because they also trash GMO, but that's exactly what they're doing. And the basically, like, you know how the new saying is, you will have nothing and be happy. Well, that's pretty much it because, like, if you look at how our government has systematically accessed our, our financial banks, like what we put in the banks, how we put it in there, and how they can actually take it for the debt now. Like, everything is that I was reading about, is slowly coming into play. And, like, once they take your money, then they take your land, and it's like, yeah, like, I don't want to be shoved in a shoebox in no city.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Like, I think I'm just still trying to absorb it all because I'm just hoping that, come tomorrow or Monday, they decide against it because it's unruly to be pulling out this act for no reason. Like, it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, honest to God, it makes me think that his mom drank while she was pregnant with him. Like, it just does not make sense.
After what I've read and learned the last few years, everything is making sense because it's coming into play as they said it was going to come into play, and it's kind of like, now what? Like, I really question that if we even have a chance because I can't see them not going through with what they want to do because it's been put in play for so long, the momentum's there, and they've got I think they believe they've got enough to enforce it.
They're really looking.
You mean they kind of got all their chips on the table, so to speak? Like they can't afford to not follow through with what they've been setting up for a while now, right?
The Freeland is the one that's really in charge. I think Trudeau is just a puppet. She's actually the one that's really in charge. Both of them went through the Young Leadership Program. And I think she's the one that's actually running the show. You'll notice she's also the one that's kind of laying down the law and telling people what's going to happen with these Emergency Measures Act. I think we're seeing who's really pulling some of the strings here, and it's not Trudeau.
Did you see?
Well, sorry, and that would, kind of be parallel to like United States of America. I mean, like Biden he is not, competent enough to be calling shots, let alone being the president. So it makes sense 100% that somebody's pulling Trudeau's strings just like somebody's pulling Biden's strings.
Well, someone had said that Friedland was trying to make emergency orders permanent. Like, okay, so when I was reading it, I thought they could actually only have it for 30 days at the max. Am I wrong about that?
Actually pushing to keep them into a indefinite situation.
Yes, she said that herself, that she plans to make some of the changes permanent, and so that they have more control over us.
It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, but that cannot happen. We can't allow that to happen at all.
Well, no kidding. Like, yeah, no kidding.
It's great to see our hardworking tax dollars working against us now.
Right? Well, I mean, like, that's how they do it in the United States.
We created this storm because we failed to stay active in the politics and on top of things. And once you lose that control, it takes a while to regain it back. But hopefully we can regain it back because more and more people are actually getting involved in politics. I know myself in 2015, a lot of my friends, they knew nothing about politics. Well, they do now because I got a little peeved with who they voted for. And they felt bad. So I said, well, you got time now. You have to learn because our power is in our vote right now. That's all we have.
So for now, I think we can see just how easy it was for Hitler to take over.
Sorry.
The way that Hitler took over is he convinced the people that he was the only one that could lead them, and then he wiped out all the other political parties. Justin's not doing that yet.
It's the start.
Well, he is in a way, not like politically, but by the vaxxed and the unvaxxed, he does have a plan there, right?
For 1 second that he's not going after some of their bank accounts too.
He's been trying to disarm us for quite a while, and there's a strong push. A lot of us are pushing hard because that was one of Hitler's main things. He was able to disarm and then they had no way to fight when the police came in and dominated. And so this is something we have to really fight, is to keep the rights to have our guns.
Rights in general, like not everybody can be armed, but just our rights in general, like they have no business trying to take them away.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be armed. I'm good on that one.
We used to learn gun.
Actually not able to here, just because of my husband's condition.
A wise man once said, "Prepare for war, you avoid war." And that made sense to me, because if you protect yourself and you're strong, nobody's going to come in and harm you. And that is why the Americans, nobody wants to go there. So many people are armed there. They'd be foolish to take on the USA.
As a gun owner myself, for me, it's not even about the gun. They could have the gun. Bow and arrow is much better anyways.
That's my brother, my indigenous brother, deep down.
Something called a Discovery Bible it's a Bible fellowship stick. So I call it my Jesus stick. Absolutely not religious. My husband's parents were, churchgoers, so we have a couple of these big bats around, and they're from a fellowship thing that they did.
I have a fish bat.
I have a fish bat as well. I can always use that.
And a light up lifesaver. Yes, I do.
Did anyone hear about that vet that got taken down, if he was okay?
I haven't heard about that, no.
Guy that had the seizure, or the guy that got stomped on by the horses?
There was a veteran, I heard, that got taken down, and they had kicked some shrapnel or something in him and caused some complications. And I was wondering if anyone had heard how he was doing.
They were shooting rubber bullets at people, and a reporter got hit.
Sounds like a lot went down yesterday while we were off protesting and convoying, which, mind you, was a good turnout, so I don't regret going there, but I did not stay attuned to what was going on in Ottawa yesterday.
The reporter was shot in the leg today.
Why are they shooting the reporters? Like, they do know who's what. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, because actually there's a law against it. You can't touch reporters. Like, hello, let's just chalk that one up on the board for another law that you're breaking.
The reporter and the camera crew were actually in with the protesters, and they fired in at the protesters. A city TV reporter also got pepper sprayed. because he was actually right in there with the protesters and, getting shoved around too.
Yeah, the states got kind of a little bit peed off there about them going after their Fox reporter. Tucker was like, excuse me, guys, they are messing around with our state's people. Who's stepping in? They called and Biden's like, oh, not me. I don't even know what's going on here. What? Are we in 1814 when we took a little trip?
Yeah, and that's bad for like foreign relations. Just doesn't look good. Like I think that Canada, because we've never done this before, right? In sort of a way, we've never had this happen, so it's all inexperienced kind of stuff, right?
When I was in the States there in the jail by Coots there, they told me that Canada, they're really frustrated because they say that the people that are in Canada that are handling this, they're pulling a lot off of the desk jobs. They have no clue what they're doing. They're complicating things. And the Border Patrol said it's like a gong show working with Canada because they're so dysfunctional up here. And like we were very lucky. They worked very hard to get us back into Canada. And Canada was trying really hard to get us charged and kept in jail. We accidentally, I crossed over in the dark, honestly. I didn't know I was in the States. And I was literally in there 5 minutes, tried to come back, and the RCMP were brutally, horribly nasty to me. And thank God that the Americans are sweethearts and very kind and considerate people.
For the reporters, it's because they were just in with the crowd, and obviously if you're riot police, you can't always tell who is who. But the reporters chose to go right in with the crowd and, I guess to experience what they were going through, and boy, they got it.
Seems like more reporters got it than actual civilians.
Civilians got it too. I only heard so far about 2 reporters and, a couple camera people. And then obviously the YouTubers, but the YouTubers are fully intended to being right in there, so.
Well, talking about like how the RCMP were kind of brutal, it just goes to kind of show like, because apparently the Americans right now, they have the support of local law enforcement. They have the support of like city law enforcement. It's the state law enforcement that is like brutal, if you know what I mean. And like here, RCMP in this country, you might as well, they're federal police force, right? And they're notorious for being kind of belligerent with people.
We found when we got back on the Canada side, the RCMP kept all the way through because we kept getting stopped, and they kept saying, "Oh, we have to protect you because the protesters are violent." And my daughter was pretty scared because she was with me, and after I just kind of kept my mouth shut because I didn't really want to go into a jail on the Canada side. I didn't think they'd be as nice, and I was really quite upset the fact that they lie so much, and they are really, because we know that the protesters are not violent, but they're telling everybody that's going through this, and that is very disturbing.
So the RCMP are liars too.
The ones at when you go through the border, they told us that there was so much violence with the truckers being attacked that they had to have RCMP. And we just got inside the past them, and then the RCMP stopped us. Again, we were told that the protesters were violent and they didn't want us to be endangered, like driving through there, so they had to escort us around. And then they sent us up past Coots towards Milk River, and then we got stopped again. And then they said, no, you can't go on the highway because at Milk River they are violent. And they shoved us back off into the side roads again. And it was like a gong show for like over 24 hours for us. And I was like, holy cow, like what are we supposed to do here, you know? And I did end up coming around through Milk River back into the Milk River protest. And it was like I knew they wouldn't be violent because I've been at too many protests to know that this is not how they roll. This type of protests are never violent like they are portrayed in the media, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's a smear campaign. It's to make everyone look bad. And that kind of is, in sort of a way, it's kind of disgusting to me because of the fact that it's like, oh yeah, you know, like, you can always trust a police officer. And it's like, yeah, bullshit. Excuse my language. But yeah, you know what I mean?
It's a myth about the police being there to help us. I've had 4 break-ins. 3 were known who broke in, and they refused to lay charges. I can name a list of stuff that the dealings I've had with the RCMP, and I, however, respect them when I see them, but it's just because I don't need to be roughed up or anything, and it's like I want to get out away from them because I do not trust them.
Well, I think after what we witnessed here with Ottawa, everyone should realize your trust for law enforcement should not be very strong anyways.
Like, isn't that sad? I said that many times while we were watching the lives. I'm like, how after this BS are we supposed to ever trust law enforcement? Like, first of all, you know, we didn't trust them because of what they did to our people. They were stealing our kids with the government, which now makes sense, and they're trying to be all good about it. Oh, we're trying to reconcile and everything. Yeah, right. What kind of reconciliation is this when you're turning on the people that are left that you hadn't turned on yet?
Well, it's like, you know, that makes me think of Russell Means, you know, and when he said, you know, this land is just a coast-to-coast reservation, right? And that, you know, the white people are just, they're the new Indians. And because they haven't paid attention and they're getting all the rights taken away, they're getting exactly what they deserve. Sorry if I'm not politically correct, but I'm Métis, so I can say that.
We hear about the natives, but I don't think everyone's quite aware what they've done to some of the whites too. I just helped a man, he's in it 64, and what Canada put him through as an 8-year-old throughout his life has just been horrific. It's really affected him, and I don't. So many children of all cultures have been really damaged by government overreach and control in our country.
Too many, and now we're not worried about all these children with sex, pedophiles and everything. Like, I don't know if you read that, but look it up. In Sylvan Lake, we had a well-known doctor named Fred Jenke. Okay, he was in my doctor's office, and he was found to have tried to get together with a 5-year-old for sexual purposes in a hotel in Edmonton through an undercover cop. And you know what those buggers did? They stayed it. meaning they needed more evidence, so somebody screwed up along the way, and now we have this doctor that's now practicing in Delburn, Alberta again, who was going to rape a little 5-year-old, but there was a stay. Yeah, you tell me what went wrong there.
He got ran out of Delburn. There was a bunch of us fought to get him out of there.
Oh, did you? Good, because I couldn't believe it when they posted that and showed the picture. You can bring your child to him, but it's just got to be accompanied. Get lost.
Yeah, Delburn's my hometown, and when I heard about that, I went to bat really hard because people were trying to give him a break and stuff, and I said, enough's enough. There was a bunch of us that have gone through pretty bad paths, and we just got very, very vocal, and then the next thing you knew, they said he will not be practicing in Delburn.
Well, and did you hear the restaurant over at Roundabout here in Sylvan Lake? He was charged 12 years ago for something with a minor. Like, it never ends. So now we got doctors and business owners, and everybody's just like, oh, let's go eat burgers there and take our kids there. It's family friendly. Yeah, okay.
Are you aware that there's a bunch of prostitutes that went missing and were found dead in the last 2 years in Red Deer? And when I talked to the RCMP, they played dumb. The reason why I know is my daughter works in a drugstore, and the prostitutes have not been coming in. So when I was protesting, I started to talk to the street people, and I found out, yeah, they're showing up dead, but not as they state, like they're getting a helping hand. And some of the prostitutes downtown are going through some pretty horrific things by some people that are higher up in the community.
This is what I'm saying, girl. Things have to change. Here we're worried about a flu and the next Baba black sheep coming in, and we have people showing up dead. Just because they're prostitutes doesn't mean they're not people either. Our children are at risk. Like, let's deal with the things that are important rather than, this BS. Like, we need to move forward in this. And I feel like we're stagnant.
They don't want to deal. I worked at a store in Red Deer, and my sister and daughter were both sexually assaulted, plus numerous other people in the store. Anyways, when I tried to report, because the man that was doing it, his son is high up in the Red Deer Hospital, the doctor actually dropped and messed up my sister's medication. Like, it's a hard story for me to tell. But anyways, the short of it is the RCMP would not lay charges because my sister's mentally ill. And even though my daughter was coming forward and I witnessed what he did and others had witnessed, they just said it wasn't good enough. And I'm like, well, how many people have to come forward and say this guy is sexually assaulting? Like, did you know that you can have cameras in a store in your home? You don't even have to be part of the store, and it's not against the law because he uses these cameras to target specific people when they work in there to know when to go in to basically put his hands on them inappropriately all the time. Like, he's well known for this, but you can't stop him because he has too much power in Red Deer.
You know what? That's funny you brought that up because I'm going through my own journey and stuff, and I had quite a terrible life myself that I'm not going to get into. But just recently, I had one more truth I had to tell, and I'd always hid it because my parents, who were racist and scooped me, always need to save face because my adoptive mother was the head honcho at the hospital, and my adoptive father was a well-known heavy-duty farmer. So they had to hold up their name, per se, right? Well, when I was in grade 10, one of the vice principal in the school I was at, he took advantage of me and sexually touched me. And I told my parents right away, and right away they were like, "Oh, don't tell anybody, don't tell." Who does that? Who tells their child not to tell anybody when somebody violates them? And I was like 16 years old. And it's bothered me all these years. And just recently on my healing journey, I decided I was going to charge him because I needed to. And I feel bad because he was in the school system. And back then, when they suspect something's going wrong, same with priests and stuff, they just transfer them. Well, he got transferred to another school. And I'm 43 now, and this was when I was 16. And all that time, who else did he hurt? And the cops have been throwing it aside, throwing it aside. I'm like, they're making it more painful for me because they're saying, oh, he's denying it, so he agreed to a polygraph. Well, they were supposed to do that polygraph like 2 months ago, and get back to me on it because I know what he did to me. I told my parents. My parents, they did talk to my adoptive mom, and she finally came clean about it and said, yes, she told me about it. That was the main part of this whole story because my mom had always not backed me up, and I needed her to back me up. Show me that, she cared in it after all these years. And so it really didn't matter, but it still weighs on me. I want to know what the results are because I know what he did to me, and he's saying he didn't. And it's heart wrenching. So I get it. I get what you're going through.
Well, and that's that keeping up with the Joneses, what would the neighbors think bullshit. And I mean, like my mother was sexually assaulted on her grad day or grad night by multiple people, and when she went to the police and they went into court, halfway through the court proceedings, my grandparents were like, what are you doing? Tell them that never happened. She did tell them that it never happened, and then she got charged with mischief. And that was fucked up because excuse my language, messed up because of the fact of the whole, what would the neighbors think?
I was 3 when I was brutally raped by my dad. Actually, I'm an ambassador for Sexual Assault Center in Red Deer. I do talks in front of sometimes 400 people. I absolutely hate it, but I want people to know that you can rise above no matter what you've been through. And, anyways, when I went to my mom told me that if I ever, I was never to cry, never to fight back, never to tell a soul. And she showed me the old well and where my body would be placed if I ever spoke. And in school, I remember the first time I went to school when my dad threw hot water on my mom. And I said, I was crying, I'm 6 years old. It was traumatic. And the teacher told me, you don't cry, you don't bring it to school. What happens in the home stays in the home. And I was 9 when my dad had beat me bad and had broken my hand bad. And he told me, oh, this is normal. This happens in all the homes. So I grew up believing that the abuse I went through was perfectly normal. But the point I want to make is I couldn't understand my mom. And my mom lives with me. She's 102. She was 99 when she finally confessed that she'd been sexually abused. And then it kind of made sense because she grew up with it. She was programmed with it. And I'm like, 99 years old. She kept that secret. Seriously, 99 years. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, but it just goes to show how systematic generational trauma can happen, right? So when we talk about it through the indigenous people and stuff, it happened to you too. It's not just solely indigenous people. Everybody has their story. And that's the thing about it. We live in a really messed up world, and if we don't change it now, how are we ever going to feel okay about our children and our grandchildren? Think about we're supposed to be at the bottom, and I was always told when you hit rock bottom, the only way you can go is back up. So, this is super important for us to stand tall and strong because it's not for us per se. It's for our children and our grandchildren so that they have freedoms and they have rights and they can speak up and not be shunned, so that this stuff doesn't happen again. And that's why we have to tell our stories so that it never, ever, ever, ever happens again.
The isolation of people is how they keep the secrets. When they first came out with the masks, Dobbs, Michael Dobb and Daw, whatever, in Red Deer that writes those historical books, I confronted him and I said that you are forcing kids into isolation and into abuse. They have no way of getting out to get help, and like he just kind of sat there and stared at me, and it was like I was really angry that you know they are this isolation really concerns me for the children because I know as myself school was the only place I could kind of get some freedom from it, and I looked forward to that, and I dread to think how many kids can't get out now.
That's exactly right, actually. I'm from Saskatchewan, Saskatoon. If you're into sexual abuse and stuff, you probably know some stats from being in Saskatoon. Um, and I'm a youth care part social worker by trade. I went to SciS and took my courses. And so I've been educated as well as I've been on the streets, and I was raised that way. And yeah, you're exactly right. Like working in group homes and stuff or drop-in centers after school and stuff, the amount of kids that came there that knew that that was the safe place, and for them to make those children stay home for 3 months at a time with their abusers or people that are around that are abusing them, they're not feeding them. Lots of those children, the only time they get fed is at school at the lunch programs, and where they feel safe. We had a little, I think she was 6 or 7. She came running into Fire Creek in Saskatoon a few years back, naked, telling them that she had been raped by her uncle. And she would not let anybody come near her. She screamed and screamed and screamed in the corner. And we told her, like, it's okay, we're gonna help you, here's a blanket and stuff. It was terrible. And these are the things that happened while, COVID was going on. But that doesn't matter, does it? We need to worry about getting the vaccination and putting our masks on. Meanwhile, this little girl was tore up to pieces and has a lifetime of trauma to deal with. It's sick.
My friend's niece tried suicide here. She took all of her mom's pills. Thank God they found her in time, but she was only 16. She couldn't handle the isolation anymore. Our neighbor shot himself New Year's Eve. I think that's the seventh suicide I've known of in 2 years.
Well, and that's like for me, it's like I've lost a few friends to drug overdoses throughout this 2 year period of time, and it just goes to show the level of despair that people have, that they're resorting to suicide or doing drugs that could potentially kill them, but just to feel something, right? Because they're always in isolation.
2.5 suicides last year was happening every day in Calgary.
Yeah, well, because for some people, it's idle hands are the devil's playground, right? Like, spend enough time alone by yourself, stuck inside your head goes all over the place, right? Like, I have that problem, like, with self-isolation in the sense of, like, when COVID hit, it was, like, no big deal for me because I was isolated all the time, voluntarily just because of depression and anxiety. And the thing that started dawning on me was the fact that it's like, man, there's a lot of people that aren't used to this, that have to go through this. And I know what it's like to go through this, and it sucks. And now they're being subjected to it as well, right?
I found that one thing that I struggled with beyond depression and stuff was the fighting with my spouse. Like during that 3 months,
right? And that's the psychological warfare aspect of it. You know, isolation, miserable, you know, and especially when two people like in a relationship aren't used to being around each other all the time. There's that always that space gap of not being around each other all the time, so that when they are together, you know, those moments matter. But then when they're always together, it creates more tensions, and then there's divorces, and then there's, you know, breakups and separations, and it's like psychological warfare, 100%.
We were blessed because we farm, and my husband and I basically worked 24/7 together most of our marriage life, and it was my accidents that kind of veered us a little bit more because I have issues now with my health. I can't do what I did prior, but it didn't change it for us so much, the isolation. It was for me going out, because I have severe complex PTSD, being attacked in stores by strangers, employees screaming at me over my mask, not having a mask on, was like they get it 6 inches from my face and calling me an effing liar and things, and I would just vibrate, and I'd be like, I'm in so much pain all the time. It just added to the pain, and I finally went back on 5-HTP, and I haven't been on it for years because I'm developing PTSD from the pandemic, not from my trauma so much, but from people assaulting me over a stupid mask.
You know what, on that note, with your mask, on the other side of the spectrum, you would not believe what I've gone through because I'm exempt from wearing a mask due to the trauma of, you know, my rapes and the man holding his hand over my face. I can't. And you know, I didn't know it until the pandemic. That's the crazy part. Here I'd gone through school and, you know, thought I was okay and everything. And it was like, yeah, I'm a survivor. Yeah, you go, girl. And then all of a sudden, when I started wearing that mask, I started like getting panic attacks, and I couldn't breathe. Like even thinking about it's making me want to, you know, have a panic attack. And even looking at people that wear them, and I couldn't understand, and I couldn't understand why I was feeling this way. And I tried so hard. And the one day I was at a doctor's office where they forced me to, regardless of it, and me telling my story. And I broke down that I didn't even I didn't remember that I broke down. They isolated me in the hallway like I was a spectacle, people walking by me, looking at me while I'm hyperventilating and crying uncontrollably and everything. And that's when my doctor realized, like, I'd had to dig deep and realize what was going on, because even like the plastic one, we tried all those kinds of masks. It's anything that blocks my breath from being free, and it comes back at me like in a shower with the steam and stuff, blanket over my head. I can't. You know what I mean? I'm shaking even thinking about it. And to have to explain that to people for them to understand has traumatized me more in these last years than almost, like, it feels like almost the event, because I've lived through it and I've dealt with it as a child and all these years, and then at 40 years old I'm sitting here dealing with this again. That was more damaging, I found.
Yeah, I can relate to that part because I have what we call black holes. I have a lot of repressed memories, and I kind of like to keep it repressed. Um, the I knew about the rape, but I didn't know about my dad holding. I had cleaned my blood up with some toilet paper, and he had shoved it in my mouth, and he put his knee in my chest and his hand over my mouth, and made me swallow it all. And that came back over the masking because of how I was being treated. I didn't know why it was so upsetting to me, so it started, those repressed memories surfaced. But I also was a firefighter for 19 years, and I knew I had trouble with masks back then, and I kind of put it down to the first time I did a search. It was my ex's best friend had been murdered and the house had been lit on fire, and I walked over his body. And I always thought that it was kind of due to the trauma of what I experienced as a firefighter, and I became very good on the fire truck, so I didn't have to wear the BAs. I just really struggled wearing a BA, but I've never been able to wear any, like a scarf in the cold. People are always saying, well, aren't you cold? Well, yeah, I'm cold, but I just can breathe without anything on my face.
Yeah, me too. Scarf was an issue for me too. Well, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, it makes you feel like you're not the only one, right? And, like I said, everybody has their story. And if we can share and heal together and, through this and come out of this a little bit better and, then it was worth it, right? And I've gained some good friends over this and some good talks, and it's always at this time of night too. I used to be over at Plus Plus, and we'd have these real deep talks on there, and a lot of people liked it because, as much as we like to, think we're all having some mental health issues, this is helping with mental health issues. People being able to talk and let their feelings out, because when you talk about it, it's like, whew, all right, now I can breathe, right? And some people can't, but for the ones that can, I feel like it helps for their mental health. So these are good talks. Me glitch for that. Wanda?
After I do public talks, I'm always surprised that, especially the men that come up to me after and thank me because their wives have been going through it, or some of the men. But what always blows me away is, say someone in their 40s or 50s comes up to me and they say, thank you, I think I'm going to go forward and tell my story now. I've never told anyone prior. And then I end up crying because it's like I was in my 40s before I actually started to even talk. And like there are some things I still cannot talk about that has happened to me, and it's just like it's really hard because they're topics that people don't want to hear, they don't want to touch on, and it's really hard for them to understand. But on the same token, it's important that people know that they're not alone, so that they can let it go and they don't have to bury it, because burying it is what makes us sick. When we carry that baggage on our back and we're dragging it and we just keep filling it up more and more, and we keep dragging that, and it gets pretty heavy. But once you start to share, it's like it's not in your face, it moves to your past more. It just becomes a memory. It doesn't affect you the same.
Well, in sort of a way, by talking about things and getting it out in the open, it allows your mind to detach from the emotion. So the emotion goes away, right? It's still there in your head, but the emotion and the thought, it detaches. So the thought's there, but the emotion doesn't come up anymore because you're able to release it and let it go, right? Like in all reality, I feel like for the longest time, the majority of society has been programmed to stuff your feelings. And it's like, yeah, but how long can you stuff your feelings until it all blows up? I mean, like, until a person has a mental breakdown and ends up in a hospital, or, even worse, they commit suicide. Like, no, we need to, what we're doing right now is it's like peer-based therapy for one another, supporting each other. And that's what we should be doing.
I lost a friend of 55 years because I couldn't take her telling me to wear the effing mask one more time. I was like, I'm not explaining to you anymore, and I'm tired of being pushed, and I'm tired of being degraded, because I shouldn't have to explain myself. I should just be able to say, no, like I have health issues. I've been around asbestos. I did rentals for 30 years. Like I've been around some bad crap, black mold, you name it, and my lungs are affected. and not just physically, I mean mentally, but physically I have issues with my lungs. And people they just don't understand that something that's simple for them, it can be so complicated. I had an older couple come boasting they're wearing their mask in my house, and the one lady says, well, there's no reason. I have severe claustrophobia and I can wear a mask. And I just kind of gently smiled there, and I says, well, you don't have severe claustrophobia then. She, well, yes, I do. I said, if you did, you wouldn't be able to wear the mask because I'm severe and I can't wear the mask. And she shut up, and she kind of backed off of me after. But some people just assume they can do it, everyone can do it.
Friend on Facebook that used to post things like, if my autistic daughter can wear a mask, so can you.
Well, and it goes for trauma, right? Like, what's traumatic for one person might not be as traumatic for another person, vice versa, right? And it works for other things too. Like, you know, a person with claustrophobia, maybe the mask doesn't affect them, you know, very badly, but it affects another person very badly. That's the beautiful thing about people and human beings being different and unique from individual to individual, is not everything's the same, right? And that's one of the things that we kind of need to break away from, is this idea that, well, if I can do it, you can do it. Well, because it doesn't work that way. Everybody's different, right?
Yeah, like here's the thing too, like I find it weird. I have severe sleep apnea and I have to wear a mask every night. I can't do the nose thing. I don't know what's Oh, I tried that at my sleep study and everything in Edmonton. I was like, no. They even just tried to put it. I was like, no, I wasn't even going to do it. And I had to put on the full mask. And it's weird because that thing is constantly on my face and I don't get anxiety from it. I get anxiety if I think I'm not going to have it at night because I rely on it. So it's kind of weird that way, right? But I think it has to do with it pushing air into me, not restricting it or bouncing back in my face is what I kind of came to about why that works that way. But yeah, you're right. Whiskey, it's totally situational because yeah, me, no way during the day, no way. At night, if I don't have it, oh my God.
And I can't wear the sleep apnea machine, and I'm supposed to have one, and I can't do anything they've tried on me. I call a tumbler at night. I roll around, it gets around my neck, and it just panics me. And I says, yeah, I bought a bed that I can lift up a bit, and that's helping me. And but yeah, like that was something that I really needed and I couldn't get.
Yeah, I struggled with it though at first. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I struggled with it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I still like, apparently, like, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, you know what I mean? And my doctor had to give me some Ativan because I guess I was having panic attacks in my sleep or something. I don't know. And so he said, like, when you wake up and you have a panic attack, take one of those and then go back to sleep. Well, I haven't taken them because I hate the drugs the doctors give me. Ugh. I try not to take any of them. And I'm a pothead, so I'm a natural kind of gal. But yeah, and I had to work it, girl. I don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy, but now it's like I depend on it is what I was trying to get at. It's kind of weird.
But you can sleep without curling it up around your neck. That's my challenge. Is it goes around my neck. I get what you mean. It helps you breathe, but I can't stand being strangled by the cord.
You know, something that I have a curiosity about is like something that I have a problem with myself when it comes to like sleep and anxiety is like if I'm woken up suddenly or like when I wake up, I'll be fine for the first 10 minutes of like, you know, that in between still sleeping but slightly waking up. But the moment I wake up, it's like the anxiety just boom, and it shoots through the roof, and then I feel like I can't get out of bed. There's times that's happened, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I wish I could make this stop. And does anybody else have that kind of issue?
I do. That's why I had to go back on the 5-HTP because it helps the anxiety, and it's natural. It's out of the health food store because I can't take anything the doctors prescribe. It makes me the Walking Dead. I tried that 20 years, but the 5-HTP just helps get me in a better place so that I can function better during the days and actually move forward.
Melatonin and pot is what works for me. Thing I have to be careful with the pot with is sometimes it can elevate whatever emotion you're feeling. So that is the one thing I do have to be careful with, though.
Yeah, I kind of recognize that in myself when it came to like if I was like almost like set and setting, if the set and setting wasn't right and I was anxious about something, then all of a sudden smoking a little bit of like sativa would all of a sudden it would amplify it like a megaphone. Um, I found that it's like it doesn't quite work that way with indica unless I smoke too much, right? If I just smoke the right amount, I feel good, I feel fine, everything's okay. But sativa, one hoot of that, and it's like it throws my whole thing. Like if I'm not thinking and not in the right mindset, then all of a sudden it's like anxiety just shoots through the roof.
Oh, give me this mic. Sativa can be murder. Holy moly. Oh, wait. What channel am I in? Yeah, dude, you gotta watch it with sativa. That's all I'll say.
There is some really good skills that you can learn. I learned it was 112, like anchoring, just how to lower an anxiety attack, how to unfreeze, how to not run out somewhere. But it was took practices learning what worked for me and what didn't. But I use them a lot, and like I think a lot of people that know me don't see when I'm really struggling because I can really hide it well because I'm working on something in my head and to anchor and to stay focused.
Me, gardening works.
Miller, I think you start talking when you press the button right away, because most of your messages, the first word or part of the word is missing. Just give it a second and watch that the circle is all around because I didn't hear your message there. Go listen to it again and see what I'm saying.
So for me, gardening works. I like to go outside and just go plant flowers and, spend time out in the dirt.
I love gardening. I love it, love it, love it. Saving seeds, trading seeds, collecting seeds. Don't gather more than you can deal with. I love growing stuff from seeds. I love growing plants.
Here we're actually doing a truth and reconciliation garden in the community down the road from us. And I think we're going to be doing something called a Three Sisters garden just because we know that people are going to be depending more on food. So we're going to be doing, it's going to be a community thing where we're just going to go in and plant a bunch of donated plants and stuff we've grown ourselves and then the community can go and enjoy it. And it's going to be the Truth and Reconciliation Garden in our community.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Like, something I thought that was funny is me and my buddy had this idea where it's like all in all the boulevards and everything just start planting random things so that way they just start popping up, right? Like potato plants and carrots and stuff. And then it's like, because of the time it takes for them to grow, we could just go start planting more things and more boulevards. And then it's like, yeah, the vegetable bandits are at it again, you know.
It's
Sadly, the governments have banned a lot of the planting in some areas. Like I know some places you can't even hang out your laundry without getting fined if you live in the wrong place.
See, and it's like stuff like that is why we have this freedom movement. I mean, like if that hanging out your laundry and get you fined, that if that doesn't shout authoritarianism, what does, right?
What is that for real? Like, I thought that was being sarcastic. Hanging out your laundry, that's just stupid. Like, for real, like, I would be in jail 100% of the time. I'd be like, F you. You tell me that I can't hang my, clean grandma panties out here to dry. Piss on you. Oh, pardon me. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
wouldn't like me. I use my fence as my clothesline, and it's if it's not the fence, then it was. I think this year it was an extension cord tied from the deck to the fence.
In Edmonton, they weren't allowed to do laundry, and I had my diapers and my clothes out on the line, and my neighbor's sister-in-law drove by, and she commented that I was such a disgusting woman. I was showing off my clothes because I had to hang them all out for everybody to see, and my neighbor was laughing. She had to phone me after, and she said it was so funny because she had to explain to her how a clothesline worked because this woman had never seen it, because where she lived in Edmonton, you were not allowed to use a clothesline.
I don't remember what the gardening style is called, but it's people that basically just drive down the road and open up bags of seeds and throw them all out into the ditches and stuff and then let them grow.
Please.
Seed bombing. It sounds more nefarious than it is.
I think it's time to start some seeds for my garden this summer here. I think I'm a little behind right now.
Field out here, we just open up a bag of wildflower seeds and then just chuck it in the wind.
We have a very invasive yellow flower, and it's going through Alberta, and it's really, really hard to control. It takes over, and it's not good for the cattle. And I think it was brought in as like a foreign plant, but it's just so evasive. You can see it in the ditches in a lot of places. It's a yellow flower. It's very pretty. It's just that it's problematic, and we see a lot of people when they don't realize that some of these plants are not native to our area. They become very invasive.
Speaking of native to our area, Wanda, remember a couple of years, or no, I guess we've been in this darn pandemic longer than that, so it's got to be like 4 or 5 years ago when those a-holes were trying to wipe out the last of our wild horses. Do you remember that?
My sister takes pictures of the wild horses every year. If you want to see some beautiful photography, you've got to see my sister's. She follows the horses out by Yahatinda all the time. If you'll notice, you might not be aware of this, but blackleg is becoming more dominant in the the beef, and I'm noticing it's all within the vaccinated beef. And they're blaming it on the wildlife, but I'm suspecting that there's something in the vaccine that's bringing it back in. I don't think it's coming through the wildlife as they're trying to make out. I've been following it for 2 years, this blackleg now.
I have a very small flock of chickens, but boy, my security is tight. Um, nobody with chickens goes into my coop unless they'd have to have a different pair of boots on, or whatever. But for the most part, I'm the only person who goes in to handle my birds.
A boot wash is always good at any farm because you never know what people are bringing in with seeds on their feet or with disease on their feet from their farms especially.
I don't have other farmers go in there. The only other person who really goes into the coop is either my mom or we have a couple of hired hands here that help out. And then, and then my friend Lisa, she comes over to help me trim their toes, like trim up their feet and stuff. It's just a small flock. But yeah, other than that, there's no other farmers that go in there.
We haven't had really any trouble, and we have beef, bison, chickens, and pigs, so we've been pretty lucky with who we've had come in, but we know everyone quite well too, eh?
Some of my birds aren't vaccinated. The ones that I got from the feed store, yes, they are done. But the ones that I got from an animal sanctuary, no, nobody's done. So they were born on my mom's farm. She got the hens from the animal sanctuary and a bunch of eggs, and then hatched them and then brought them to us. And so I knew that they weren't vaccinated. So I do worry a little more about them catching something than I do the girls down in the other barn.
Holy, I can't believe we're talking about vaccinating chickens. That's kind of crazy, actually. But hey, they're chickens too, right?
Been vaccinating birds for quite a long time, and any birds that you normally get from a large hatchery will come to you already vaccinated.
Oh, so it's not just because of COVID? That's what I'm under. Sorry. Like, oh my God, I don't even know what's going on.
Wanda, sorry.
The vaccines are trying to say, like the COVID vaccines are going to be going into the cattle and the animals. I was watching that and I'm like, good grief, go away. Just because you're afraid of, as a human being, don't go shove those stupid crap down on our livestock because it's not going to happen.
It kind of makes you wonder who's got the mad cow disease or something. No, I'm just kidding and I'm tired. I'm glad it's 5 o'clock. I might head to bed here now that we got some mods on and stuff talking away. Negative. I haven't slept yet. I was just, eating ketchup chips from the box and waiting with my cut-off shovel frontline.
This will be the first year that we will not do 8-way. I'm very concerned about the blackleg rising, and I don't want to take a chance that it's in the vaccine. We will still do the ivermectin because we know the ivermectin works for the warbles and the lice.
Well, thanks for leaving me. Jeez, I thought you were my friend.
The only vaccines that these birds get is just whatever they come with. I don't do anything else with them beyond that. except for worm them whenever it's needed. Reminds me I need to order some panic gear.
Eating an avocado. Boy, does that taste nice.
Come on here for updates, and they come on here looking like 24 hours a day. So we try to do our best. Just for anybody new in the channel that might want to read up on that, it's a pretty interesting video to watch.
Trying to open some live feeds on my laptop, but my laptop's deciding to take forever and ever, and I can't seem to access them. I'm having trouble getting onto live feeds too.
This channel is still active. I'm not sure what everybody is up to. It's still a little bit early.
Sorry, I got lost on Amazon, so I'm Amazon shopping and didn't pay too much attention to the chat yet.
I'm trying to find some live feeds, and I haven't been able to.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I was looking through the Facebook stuff and trying to find any news. Man, they got her stripped clean overnight. There is very little to see.
That guy wasn't really up for wanting to talk. As soon as it comes in and starts with name calling and stuff, we just boot them out.
Is anyone else watching the live in downtown Ottawa, the aftermath?
Going in Montreal this weekend?
I'm hearing stories about the queue, but I don't know how true they are.
Appears the arrests are more for the media to say that the cops are doing something, but they're just releasing them all, it seems.
The action is now in Calgary. I'm just watching a video now. It's not a live feed. I think it was posted a couple hours ago.
Been trying to find lives in Ottawa today, and I still can't seem to find anything that shows what's going on, and I can't seem to reach anybody that I know that's out there. Is anyone else having any luck? Okay, I'm reading in the Global. They have written down that police in Ottawa are cracking down on the so-called Freedom Convoy that has occupied the capital for 24 days. Police arrested some protesters that were wearing body armor and had smoke grenades on them. They also had miscellaneous fireworks in their bags, police says. At a Saturday evening, a total of 170 arrests were made. The statements posted on Twitter on Saturday, Ottawa police described encounters with the convoy demonstrators as assaultive and aggressive. Mm-hmm. I just gotta love Global's creative writing.
It's a sad state of affairs right now. People don't realize what they're helping build.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So yeah, I think some people are just very cowardly and they just like to feel protected, and that's what they feel the government's doing is protecting them.
The media has really pushed the fear on the virus and on the protesters. It's all been very well programmed, and anybody that's been abused knows how the system works, and it has been very well established by our Prime Minister.
Everybody who has not seen the video that I just posted in the chat there should check it out. It's regarding censorship within the parliament.
The comments on one of these live streams, and it's really sad to see how many people support communism. Do you have any videos of what's going on in Montreal or Calgary or Edmonton right now?
Yes, we did give up our power and a lot of our freedom because we didn't stay vigilant in what our politicians were doing and how they were doing it.
The Rebel News reporter that got shot yesterday. Rubber bullets, that is, not real bullets, but rubber bullets. She ended up getting shot yesterday and got roughed up pretty good. Apparently there's going to be something going on at the War Memorial, but the police are stating that they will arrest anybody who protests. But there is going to be, I guess, something starting at 11 o'clock at the War Memorial. I heard there was one shot with rubber bullets, too. I'm not really sure how they're going to get to the War Memorial. I'm just following somebody on a live stream now. There actually 2 YouTubers are on their way down there now, if they can get there, because there's several roadblocks around the city, and they're not allowing people access to certain areas.
The reporter that was tear gas was also physically hurt too, and that might have been what they were saying was the rubber bullets, because she was getting first aid, the video that I had watched yesterday, and she looked like she was in a lot of pain.
And the meetup is at the War Museum.
Anybody got any live feeds from Ottawa this morning?
Good morning. I hope everyone got some rest last night.
It was like 170 arrests or something like that. Stuff going on in Calgary and Alberta, and I'm hoping somebody's got some live feeds for that.
The news reported 191 arrests so far.
Anybody in Calgary right now that can go down and check out that protest?
Hello guys, I'm just wondering if anyone's downtown Ottawa today.
Looks like there's only a handful downtown Ottawa. I think the bigger protests now are out in Calgary and Edmonton and maybe Montreal.
Yeah, it's a shame what they ended up doing, man, but what can you do? I guess they can only do so much, and they tried, but too bad all Canada wasn't in Ottawa.
I understood Winnipeg was supposed to be doing some pretty good protests there too.
Nothing in Edmonton too much, just the usual little convoys or whatnot, but I think a lot of it's in, everybody's in Calgary now.
They're going to be using some facial recognition to try and destroy the lives of these protesters that went to Ottawa. They're going to start identifying them on the cameras.
They can do whatever they want. They still haven't won.
They've been telling that to us for years as we've been protesting, that the facial recognition will be coming. We haven't seen it yet hit, but I wouldn't be surprised down the line because China's what they're using. Our MLA here is all for chipping, and he's a conservative Drishan. When I talked to him, he said, what's the difference? China does the facial recognition. We might as well do the chipping here because it doesn't matter which way it is. It's a better system. Maybe time to start digging in deep and seeing what bills are going to be passed here in federal and in provincial, because so many things have been passed and people have been asleep on. Maybe we could get ahead of awakening some on them.
Well, good morning, everybody. I've spent the last hour catching up on all the chat before I could say good morning. I'm going to spam you guys a little bit with some different pictures that I've taken or I found over the night. And then there's going to be some there for you too, Mike, of the batons that you were looking for.
Okay, thank you. I will look for that in a little bit here.
And it's funny, to go along with this post that I just screen captured and put up, I just heard on a news clip that says that they arrested people with body armor and grenades, smoke grenades at the protest yesterday.
Yeah, Global did that one. That was pretty humorous when I read that.
It was just pepper spray that they used. I knew a couple of protesters had said something about tear gas, but then other ones were saying at the same time that they were pepper sprayed. So.
Okay, that's it for my spamming. I got a lot more pictures last night, but I think that should suffice all you need. Yeah, that police chief, if you go out to Twitter and listen to it, it doesn't matter if you left peacefully or not. They're using the facial recognition to find out who you are, and they're still going to go after you. Yeah, they have declared war, basically. I mean, there's no other way to say it, but they have declared war on the citizens and anyone else that partook in the demonstration.
They allowed all your BLM rioters, free the day right after being arrested. So kind of just goes to show where both of our governments stand, and it certainly isn't with peace.
No, definitely not. I mean, our vice president was raising money to get the BLM protesters out of jail, and Antifa. They were raised, literally, she was right in there with them, encouraging people to give money to get these people out of jail.
Scumbags was bailed out by BLM money and then went and attempted to kill a politician. We just heard that on Fox News the other day. A real freaking winner there.
Watching global news now, the block, and I don't think my stomach can handle much more lies that are coming down from the top.
The sad thing is that the people that have already been turned, they're not going to see the light. They're not going to see what's going on. They will follow along aimlessly, blindly, and bound and determined to say it's you're the problem, you're at fault. And I just heard on or read, I can't remember which now already this morning, that, you guys were actually talking about it on here, that the white person has become the minority. And it's true. That's exactly what is happening. They have taken and reversed the roles. And even Bee has said that herself.
Here, they might want to be careful about being racist towards who they believe is white, because we have a lot of First Nations people that are recognized First Nations people, but appear white due to having so much white blood in them. You want to go and piss them off by calling them a white supremacist when they're not? Yeah.
I get called a white supremacist, and I got blocked in me, but I sure don't show it. And when I point it out, I just say, be careful. But you know what? They don't really care. But we are getting people slowly. I met some young girls at a protest Thursday, and they said they just got their eyes open a week ago. So we can't give up on people yet either. We got to keep planting those seeds and try.
Yeah, it's insane. I have family members that are that have black in them, and you would never know it. You look at him, and he is as white can be, but his father is half black, and his.
Sorry, I keep stomping people. I was going to say the same, that there's been at least 3 people I know that have changed their perspective in the last week, and I think that'll continue to happen if the government continues to overstep.
I hope so, but I'm doubtful, especially for the very far-leaning liberal and Democrats. I mean, the Democrats up down here and the Liberal Party up there. Prime example, I don't ever see that person that's bringing the class action lawsuit against the convoy ever opening her eyes.
Somebody looking for a fucking paycheck, or freaking paycheck, sorry. That's all that is. I mean, $300 million because people honked horns in your neighborhood for a couple of weeks? Come on, man.
the other thing to consider is if if the big money players in all of this are just buying out our parliament, then it doesn't matter how many of us band together and how many of us feel whatever we feel. It's all just puppets playing out of play, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, Dreamer, and you're correct, Miller. It's insane. But yet, had they burned the buildings, looted the businesses, like the BLM riots did and protests, it would be all okay.
Did have a guy in Winnipeg that's a known Antifa member that ran over some people in the protest. One particular person was not in front of his vehicle. He actually swerved the vehicle to hit the person. As far as the other people go, I don't know if they're in the middle of the road or not. But yeah, he's a known Antifa member, and he hit 4 people with his car and damaged somebody else's vehicle. And I don't even know if that vehicle was even in the protest or not. And then we had a guy downtown Ottawa that stole a flag from a 13-year-old, very well-spoken young girl. And her father approached, and then he proceeded to assault somebody that tried to take the flag away from him. And then he tried to beat the shit out of the father, and then broke his own ankle in the process, and then laid there and cried and whimpered whenever the cops came to arrest him. Because then, whenever you're the one that's encouraging the police to get rough with somebody, and then suddenly it's you that they're going to get rough with, that little baby sat there and cried. And he's like, oh, don't make me sit up. I broke my ankle. And they're just like, yeah, like, you're under arrest, dude. So this is how you're going to stand up, and you're coming with us. So suddenly it was an issue.
There's always more than one door that you got to open, and sometimes you have to open 3 different doors before the 4th one is actually successful. We have to just keep doing the best we can, stay positive, and keep going forward, keep creating awareness, and truth rises to the top. It always does.
I understand the horn honking probably drove people nuts, and maybe that's one thing to consider for the next big protest if there is one. Whenever it's rolling in, yeah, maybe blare the horns, but after that, kind of keep the support on your side, because that's when the support really started to die off in the city, is whenever the horns wouldn't stop. But when it first came in, I do think they had a lot of support there.
I mean, you'd like to think people are intelligent enough to see past a single factor and actually read into the entire narrative and look into what's really going on beyond that, but unfortunately some people just get stopped at one negative thing.
Keep in mind, too, that a lot of the people that are living in the city, especially in the downtown core, I mean, I've met lots of city people that have never set foot outside the city. They've never been to a farm. They've never been around, truckers or anything like that. So it's a totally different environment to them when the rural community brings all their people and, in some cases their animals into the city. And then it's like, I think it's like a huge shock for them. And of course, they're not used to this. Like, I find the cities stink anyways. That's why I don't live in one. But like, you can kind of see where it would be a huge shock to them, where they're surrounded by all these people that they've probably been told their whole life are inbred, aggressive, racist, and kind of beneath them in the way that they think. I read a column that was done by a somebody that used to be a writer for the Conservative Party, and he said that was exactly how he grew up in the city, is that he was basically taught that, and even just through social media and, other people in the city, that we out here are beneath him. And it's now because of this convoy that he's really starting to realize that way of thinking just wasn't the right way to go.
We've never gotten everybody on the same page at once. It's always been kind of one group and then another group and then another group, and we burn out the prior groups, and somehow we got to also get these groups all together and uniting, and so far we haven't really got the full unity yet.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I just posted a link of a live in Ottawa, so check out that link. That's probably one of the few lives going on right now.
Morning, Lex.
Yeah, again, check out that link that I just posted. That's one of the few guys live right now in Ottawa, downtown. And he's trying to get into downtown area there. He's approaching police. Police are telling him, no, it's a no-go zone. So he's kind of walking around.
Members wouldn't consider this to be Antifa. I had people that were definitely Antifa that were on my Facebook, and they think that we all need to die, be put in concentration camps and just learn to accept our defeat. They 100% support full-on aggression towards any political or protest group that doesn't agree with them. So I would definitely say that the Antifa of today does not view this movement as being Antifa involved. Members I had that were on my Facebook, they fully supported all of the raging violence that was happening in the U.S. riots, but are 100% absolutely against the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. As a matter of fact, they're siding with the government on this one.
Well, that's the part that doesn't make sense. You have Antifa and BLM fighting in the same space constantly, but yet BLM wants Marxism, Antifa wants lawlessness. That's the part that's not making sense.
You always see them fighting side by side, so I do think that there's just some people that would be considered Antifa members that just love to fight regardless of where it is.
Which user are you asking or saying should be blocked? I didn't open up that logo thing. I was asking for a download on it, and I really don't want to download something from somewhere.
All open to different political views in here, as long as people just keep it respectful and don't be calling each other names and stuff like that. I'm a sailor's wife, trust me, that is not foul language. Who knows, maybe there was people that would have normally supported Antifa and other movements supported this one. Maybe they were already in the marches and actually agreeing with, what was being what the truckers were doing. Who knows?
Well, Antifa just pretty much hates everyone.
There's definitely a few members that are, pretty hateful to anyone that's not just like them, that's for sure.
That's funny. The guy with the cameras, he's got a hotel room in the red area. He's trying to talk to a cop to get into the red area, and the cop turns his back and walks away. So the cop won't even listen to him as he's trying to say, hey, I've got a hotel in that area, and I live in that area, and I need to get to my hotel. Wow.
Unfortunately, a lot of the far left extremist Antifa, those guys, for instance, one of the guys that was shot in Kenosha by Kyle Rittenhouse, these guys have serious mental issues, and
they're just messed up in the head completely. You know, that's how some of their views are so far skewed. And, you know, some of them are beyond helping, unfortunately. But when that one guy that got shot, I mean, he had just been released from the mental hospital the day before. So, you know, a lot of them, they got these extremist views of violence and hate for no matter who it is. And a lot of times you cannot change it.
Necessarily say that this is it and that the convoy for freedom is over. I think now it's probably just going to be the people that are going to take up where the truckers left off. You can find photos on Calgary right now. From what I understand is that there's thousands of people there protesting.
I would have to agree with that assumption.
Sure, she was saying that you were pro-separatist or anti-separatist, so I just kind of left it alone, but it looks like that person may have been booted anyways.
Crap, I set the phone down for 3 minutes and somebody starts talking about dropping crop stuff from a crop duster. Holy crap. It's crap like that that gets the protesters in Coots shut down, because you get a small fringe of crazy attack protesters coming up with frickin' violent ideas. And then the RCMP says, well, we're going to cause vandalism to vehicles and kick everybody out because we feel threatened. So that's where you definitely got to nip it in the ass.
I hadn't booted that user just based on their name. I was, you know, pretty easy to tell that they're probably just going to cause crap.
Poor Dan's trying to get his wife to get his information to me. It reminds us of us phoning our husbands at 12 at midnight to get our information so we could get out of jail.
I definitely agree with you. There's definitely media on both sides that are just full of crap and are only out there just to get people to like them. So it's really hard to tell who's telling the truth and who's not. That's why I'm usually just sticking to the YouTubers and watching the people that are directly down there instead of relying on the mainstream media or even Rebel News for that matter, because I find some of them to get a little bit dramatic themselves. Like Rebel Media, I just find some of them to be a little more into the drama than some of the other reporters.
Wow. I think that's the only guy streaming the 420 Company on YouTube. It's funny, he's got 1,600 subscribers, but he has 7,500 people watching. So, yeah, a lot of people want to know what's going on in Ottawa.
Are you wanting to know what the convoy was about? They're looking for a ride from Ottawa to BC.
You know what this fence up around the red zone reminds me of? East Berlin, West Berlin. At the time when the Germans first threw up a fence dividing the two and causing that separation. This is how I feel it's like.
Copy that. I actually went through Checkpoint Charlie into East Berlin from West Berlin, or into West Berlin, East Berlin, both directions. And when you're coming out of the communist country, they actually put a measuring stick on your vehicle to see how high your vehicle is off the ground, whatever, and make sure that there's nothing built up in your vehicle so that you could facilitate in helping somebody leave a communist country. So, yeah, really inspecting everything to make sure that nobody leaves that communist country. Yeah, they even shoved the rod down the gas tank in the communist country to make sure there was nobody hiding in the gas tank. And that's what Antifa wants here, communism. Go figure.
And it just baffles me that people are so blind to see it. They want it. I mean, people here in the States keep saying they want universal health care like Canada has. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. You don't understand.
Honesty, I don't think our hospitals would be as clogged up as they normally are, even before COVID, if people would just learn how to treat the cold and flu at home, and even, sprained ankles or sprained wrists. Like so many people will go to the emergency room because they have the stomach flu, and stay home, drink ginger ale, eat crackers, like.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have a cousin that had a huge lump growing on his back, on his shoulder blade. And for years, the doctors did nothing with it. Then all of a sudden, they suspected it was cancer, so they wanted to cut it open. It's like, as soon as you do that, the cancer is going to spread. And there's so many other stories that, undetected colon cancer for absolute years, and my great uncle was detected in stage 4 colon cancer and was gone within weeks. It's just, I don't think universal health care is the way. I think that there's not enough attention being given to the people.
Get some private health care here too. Like there is some private clinics for doing blood work and all that kind of stuff. You just have to pay for it. But really, I mean, our hospitals, a lot of the times, at least our emergency rooms, are just tied up with such minor stuff that people can go to a walk-in clinic and get treated the next day.
Yeah, this, and I'm looking at the graphs right now for Alberta, and the peak of this latest wave, the peak was reached like a couple of weeks ago, early on. I'm looking here, probably January, February 1st. Yeah, near the end of January is where the peak reached on hospitals and ICU beds, and everything is decreasing from that point on. So we're pretty much over the peak, and we're going downward. That's where we're at.
Ontario was down over 1,000 cases in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, so everything is trending downward, and absolutely the number of ICU beds on this wave was only maybe not even 3/4 of the last wave. So a lot fewer ICU beds this time around. More hospital beds, so more people in the hospital on this wave, but not ICU. So in other words, it's more of a cold type thing, but not as much going to get you into ICU. But the peak is reached, and we're on the downward trend here now. So, back to freedom, I guess.
don't preach freedom, because Goon Squad will come knocking on your door and, charge you with counseling mischief.
Yeah, Miller, I agree with you. We were up there years ago, absolute years ago, and we got into an accident on Yellowhead. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And it took the police over an hour to even get there. And we all were banged up and everything. And we did go into a private clinic the next day. And yeah, it was fine. We got diagnosed with, whiplash and bruising and, that kind of stuff. But I agree with you on it. The private stuff is definitely better as far as that goes.
Started off grassroots just to end mandates, and it was to kind of send a message to all political parties that we're kind of tired of being bossed around and controlled as much as what we are. And then I think some people did take it political, and then, of course, the media went and put their own spin on it.
And look at the stats down below in Les's link. The fully vaccinated are the most hospitalized right now.
Some people wanted to make the movement look like it was a white supremacist conservative group of people, but you can't tell me that out of the millions of people that have showed support that they're all conservative. I think there's a lot of other parties, like a lot of people that support other parties were also supporting the movement too, but the government really didn't have much to stand on, so of course they had to accuse it as being a white supremacist movement because it's all blue collar truckers, mechanics, farmers, people like that. So
hey, Rami, I think that going back to your post about the sneaky politicians and stuff, sure, absolutely, they could be doing this to divide us, but that's what they've been doing since the whole BLM movement and other uprisings have really started in the last 12 years is just that. They are trying to divide everybody. And I think COVID was kind of starting to become the icing on the top to get everybody divided. And most definitely there were politicians involved in that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But as far as Antifa, yeah, it started in the communist country. And so did BLM. I mean, BLM is a Marxist person. The head of it was a Marxist person, and she full on believed in the communism way, but differently. And that's why it's became more of a Marxist political type of thing than the communism. But Antifa, they are, Les is right. They just want to create havoc, and they are communists, and they want the lawlessness.
Well, BLM proved to be pure communism, because look at who ended up running with all the money, the leaders.
Yeah, and they never actually hid the fact that they were Marxists. As a matter of fact, I believe she even admitted it on national television.
Yeah, BLM is pretty much a dumpster fire.
Yeah, absolutely she did. But they don't want to believe it. The people that are following it, that, now they're saying, well, that's this BLM. That's not this BLM movement. We're just about equal rights and so on and so forth. And it's like, then it's not BLM. You can't have it both ways.
Well, BLM is Antifa. Antifa is BLM. They're both the same thing. They all march together. They all do the same stuff. And, quite honestly, I don't even want to talk about them. But I am watching the 420 Company on YouTube, and he's got 10,000 people watching. Looks like a fence. He's got a shot where he's right at the fence, right in Ottawa, where they put up fences to keep any protesters that might be there from getting anywhere close to Parliament Hill. And yeah, it looks like a giant police blockade of the entire city. So unless you have a job in there or you live in there, they're not letting you into that so-called red zone, the communist red zone in Ottawa.
Understand why those restaurants and coffee shops couldn't open up and just have a staff member help to control the flow of the crowd coming in.
Well, they don't want anyone going into Ottawa. So apparently, unless you have a reason to be there, you cannot be there. So again, the businesses are not open because the police have the whole city under lockdown. So yeah, pity the businesses there.
The ones who kept their doors locked during the protests, did they not understand how much money they would have made?
What it boils down to is, the last place in the world that I would want to open a business would be in Ottawa. Mind you, anywhere in Canada has been completely terrible in the last 2 years with the lockdowns.
I understand they're afraid of getting fines and stuff, but they should have joined forces with the businesses that did open up and serve them down there. The Tim Hortons in the area made more money over this 3-week protest, whatever it was, than he has in a year.
Well, it's, the government doesn't care about any kind of a business because the government has more than enough money to prevent you from opening your business.
No, all they care about is the compliance. That's what it all comes down to. And again, look at the tow truck drivers. Remember what Trudeau said. I will strongly compel them. So, and the crackpot farmer put in his video that he had a credible source that said basically that the tow truck companies that came from out of town were blackmailed and told you will do this or you will lose your business insurance and licenses.
Said and done, those companies need to come forward with proof that happened.
Yeah, well, those tow trucks were company trucks because they had the company labels blocked out, and then they put an RCMP emblem beside it. So those were company trucks that were somehow commandeered.
Yeah, I got a picture of one of them today, and it had everything blacked out but the RCMP logo.
Yeah, watch this guy, the 420 Company. 420 Company. He's right in there. He's in the red zone. He's actually in the red zone, in the area where is the communist red zone, where nobody is supposed to go unless you live there or maybe have a bit. business there or have some proof that you need to be in that red zone. Or if you have a hotel room, for example. So if you want to be in the red zone, just book a hotel room and then you can get in there. But otherwise, if you're a protester trying to get into that red zone and you don't have proof of why you need to be in that red zone, then you're not going to get in there. So the number of people in the red zone is pretty small. Like I'm looking around and I see maybe 10, 20 people kind of just milling around. And I believe I'm not sure, he's on Bank Street. So we're looking at Bank Street, and that's the spot where all the protesters ended up yesterday. And you see looks like a mainstream media camera is there. Oh, that's probably CBC. So they're there. I'm not sure, though. It could be anyone in the big mainstream. But he's live right now. And let's see, if I put on CBC, I could see if that's who it was. But anyways, they allowed the mainstream media in there, but not a protester. So, and if you're just a guy doing a YouTube video, well, they won't let you in there. But they let CBC or whoever it is, mainstream media, in there.
Yeah, and if this had been a BLM or a Antifa protest, that bus stop would have been destroyed.
Well, if it was a BLM Antifa protest, Trudeau would be there on his knees taking part in the whole thing. He'd be praising the whole thing.
That is true.
You know, that's what you call a scumbag politician, and that does stuff like that. That's Trudeau. Oh, yeah.
You're right on. Right on. You want to shout out where you're streaming to?
I'm from Toronto.
But I mean, is it Facebook, YouTube?
Facebook.
Okay.
Yep.
Facebook.
Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
You want to shout it out? People want to tune in?
Tune in to
your stream.
To my stream. Oh, well.
How would they find it?
There's a few people on here.
Oh, okay.
Just my friends and
okay,
share it.
Yeah.
I'm nobody special. I'm just like, well, I'm not as special as you. Of course.
No, every single person out here right now is epically special because this is like Canadian history. Really, it really is. Yeah.
And you know what? I've been a trooper online and sharing what knowledge I have to try and help people understand what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And I've been mothering my wife for the past several days. I said, you know what, honey? I really have to go. I have to go.
Yeah. And
I have to really see it from my own eyes and bring out the truth to people.
Yeah.
Because there's so much crap. Like, for example, the Aboriginal woman who apparently died. And I can't tell you how many posts I've seen about that. Mm-hmm. She's in the hospital, she's well, she's injured, and she did not die.
Yeah.
But the media will have you believe that she died. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm. Because they want to infuriate the public and get them to lash out, get angry, and then these, what you call police, which aren't law enforcement, most of them are actually G4S.
Yes.
It's the largest security company in the world who they brought in, and they brought them in on UN planes. Isn't that something?
Well, I saw talk of that. I saw some video. I'm not too sure if that's been confirmed yet or what exactly.
No, it hasn't been confirmed.
Right.
Remember the G20 in Toronto?
Yes, very much.
That was
so.
GS4.
Yeah.
G4S. Sorry.
Yeah, I remember.
And they arrested over 1,000 people.
That's right.
Okay, well, here they haven't arrested that many, of course, but they're not good people, and they don't abide by the law, and they don't play nice.
Now, you're noticing similarities to the G20 like I am. We got this fence. We've got, back then they enacted the Public Works Protection Act so that they could ID anybody within the red zone, but the positive thing is, 10 years later, every single person who was kettled and arrested won a $16.5 million civil action lawsuit. Justice was actually served. All those people who got wrongfully arrested got paid somewhere between $5,000 and $25,000 each. So all the things that are happening here may still see similar litigation in the future. Do you think that's possible?
I think they're burying themselves. I believe And most people think I'm crazy, but I believe it's all a show. This is to wake up the masses. There are enough of us awake already. We've reached critical mass, enough to make a big, big difference. I mean, you just look around you, and there's people like you here and me and others, many, many others. They've been scattered. They've been decimated. Yeah. And it's very sad.
Okay, so that's just a little bit of an interview going on, a little bit of maybe conspiracy theory there with who the police actually are down there right now. But there are people down there. There's a little bit of video coming out, although there's not going to be some kind of a giant protest today. The police have blockades on every intersection going into downtown Ottawa, and they're preventing anybody from going into that area. So it looks pretty sparse as far as people in that no-go zone. What? Is that right? I don't know. I heard a rumor that the Queen of England is triple vaxxed and she just came down with COVID.
That's what I just heard them say as well. It wouldn't surprise me. The fully vaccinated, boosted, everything else are what's getting COVID more now than the unvaccinated. At least even in the stats here in the States, that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everyone that is pro getting the shot says that if you do get the shot, then if you get COVID, it won't be as serious. So you better get the shot so that when you do get COVID, it won't be as serious. That's the mantra.
Exactly. I got the Johnson & Johnson initially last year in hopes of being able to go up there and visit. And all these boosters started coming around, and I said, why? Why do you need boosters? And I started looking into it, and they went from 6 months to 3 months to 2 months, and now it's back to every 3 months. And it's because the vaccine only lasts for 90 days. That's what it's been determined to do. And it's like, then what's the point? I'm not going to keep getting shots.
Okay, this would be an interesting question. If anyone has a map, a Google map, pull up Google Maps and see if you can get a copy of that red zone, of where the red zone is. Now, let's say you were a protester, a legal protester, not an illegal one, but a legal protester, and you wanted to protest, you wanted to legally protest, as Trudeau says people can legally protest. So let's say that you are in the light of there being a national emergency, which Trudeau declared, but yet said, well, no, but we're going to allow people to legally protest. So if you've got a red zone that is completely blocking off an entire city, and let's say that you were a legal protester, where outside of that red zone, just outside of that red zone, would you meet other protesters to have a legal protest? That would be the question of the day.
Yeah, can they, as far as the efficiency of it, or the percentage of the efficiency, here in the States, they have badmouthed Johnson & Johnson from day one and said Pfizer was the best percentage of vaccination, then Moderna, and then Johnson & Johnson. I think they said initially the Johnson & Johnson was like 86% or something like that, and then Pfizer was 97% and Moderna was like 93% effective. And it's funny, but you know, they're sitting there saying you need a booster, you need to get this booster because it'll put you back to 85% of being covered. And it's like, okay, if it's going to put us back to 85%, what was it at the time that we have to get this booster, And so I started looking, and I was finding that it basically, the vaccines were done after 90 days is basically what I came up to find. And I'm like, I'm not going to keep getting boosted. This is ridiculous. These aren't true vaccines then. So I just said, no, I'm not getting any more boosters. And so the Johnson & Johnson, they've even really kind of pushed it out. They push Pfizer and Moderna. They don't even really want you to get the Johnson & Johnson. And, they even put a stop on it for a while because of the 8 people that got blood clots. And it's like, people are like, why do you get the Johnson & Johnson? They have all the blood clots and all this and that. And it's like, all the vaccines are having side effects, including blood clots. They're just not being advertised.
Okay, I took a look at the map there to see where a good location would be, and if you look at that map, you'll see the north end is blocked off by the river. The east end is almost blocked off by the Hull, whatever it is, there's a canal right there. The Rideau, probably the Rideau Canal. I'm not looking at the map here, just going off my memory. And on the south edge, you've got the highway, the 401 highway. So the only place that you could probably have a peaceful protest that would be anywhere close to that location would be up on the northwest corner of that red zone. And that is probably the best place there, right at Albert Street. So Booth and Albert, that intersection, somewhere around that Booth and Albert location there, up near the northeast corner of that red zone. Sorry, northwest corner of the red zone, northwest. Booth and Albert in that intersection in there is probably a good place where people might be able to assemble. Peacefully assemble.
Take a look at this, Les. After while you were talking, I just found this CTV News article. Do those streets fall within that red zone or outside that red zone? That link from Zot looks like it's outside of the Coventry area.
Where is that link you're talking about?
The one pasted above from Honey for the YouTube channel. I guess my response to the landowner would have been, well, I'm staying informed and I'm listening to all sides. And that would have put it back on them to be like, oh,
Okay, everyone, subscribe to that one that I just posted there. There's a Twitch TV post. So go over there and subscribe to that channel there as well. There's good feeds coming through there. That's PressPad on Twitch TV. PressPad on Twitch TV.
that's the same guy as the 420 channel, Les.
Yeah, copy that. Okay, Trainer Kim. Trainer Kim, you have a microphone now. You can talk now, Trainer Kim.
Thank you so much, Les. I just found a shocking Facebook video that I'm going to share. Cops are threatening to bust the door down to a coffee shop that's open there in the red zone.
Trying to figure out where the crowd is there. They're on Wellington Street and where, but that's where the protest is. It moved out of the downtown, but they're still on Wellington Street, but they're south of, let's see, what is that? No, still Wellington. Wish I could find a cross street there to give you. But they're definitely south of the downtown area on Wellington Street.
The street sign just said south. That video is insane, Kim.
TK, it absolutely is very scary, and thank God for those people. Kudos to that guy for not unlocking his door.
You know, I made a post on the one of the Canadian pages, Canadian Conservatives Against the Left, or something like that, or one of the other ones. I can't remember what page it was, but I put on there that I was a proud American Canadian and spent half my life, in my younger years, going back and forth every year between summer and winter. And I had plans on moving to Canada when the timing was right. And after this, right now, I don't think there's ever going to be a right time to move there. Sad to say.
Well, yeah, yeah, your sentiments are well taken. I think, honestly, it doesn't matter where you live. If you're living in Biden America, holy crap, that's not a good place either. You know, we're living in Biden Trudeau Canada, which is pretty repressive. But it is what it is. But overall, Canada is a pretty good, you know, free country to live in. It's just when you have, you know, the top end trying to put the lid down on the little people, on the proletariat. We're all basically being squashed like little bugs here at the moment. But you know, all this stuff is transitionary, and it's something that's happening right now. But will it be happening tomorrow? Well, we hope not. But yeah, this is just a great example of how one leader can totally abuse the powers of an entire country.
Oh, absolutely. And to be living in Biden's America right now, it's not even really Biden. And I don't even really think that it's Harris. I really, truly believe that you got probably Clinton or Obama pulling the strings in the back end. There is no way Harris should have ever even been put in as vice president. She has no abilities to run this country. She didn't even place in 1% of the initial polls when running for president.
Yeah, you know, Biden is not running the United States. Biden is not smart enough to run the United States. Biden is not smart enough to come up with all the lefty ideas that were put into place the day that he came into power. Biden is nothing more than a mouthpiece for an extreme left group of people that are surrounding Biden and putting forth all of the left wing. You know, it's we have the same problem here in Canada. It's anything that comes from the government is so frickin' left wing twisted that it's like totally out of whack with reality. And that's just the world we're living in, both in the States and in Canada.
Oh, absolutely. I think right now what you have going on is you have, the World Economic Order that's actually running this. This is what they're doing. I tell you, I know it's a sci-fi and all, and everybody keeps referring back to Orwell's 1984, but I'll tell you what's even scarier is if you look at the Christian sci-fi Left Behind, and you start reading it. Yeah, it's fiction, but if you start reading it, you will realize really soon, crap, that's happened, this has happened, and that's happened. It's like, this is fiction playing out in real life.
Yeah, copy that. Oh, I don't know what happened to his stream there. It crapped out. Hang on. Gotta see what's going on.
Hey, Les, I waited and I waited, and then I had to step away from my phone for a second. But I was trying to get in a good old, come on, man, when you're digging on Biden.
Come on, man. Antifa's not a thing. Come on, man. Yeah, those are pretty famous Biden quotes. Because I can't. I don't want to degrade the guy. He does his own job on himself.
Oh, it's such an embarrassment when you have somebody with this decreased mental capability that he's unfortunately going through because of his age. And I mean, can you imagine him getting together with Putin on the phone last week? And he's going, well, you can't invade Ukraine. You can't. Come on, man. It's all I can think of is that's going to be his turnout words is, come on, man, to Putin. It's like, yeah, Joe, you need to go. You just need to go.
Well, I don't know how they could choose a guy like that, honestly, he's giving a speech and he's, the next guy to come up, he can't even remember what the guy's name, or he's referencing people during his speech and he can't remember their names. It's just, he shouldn't be there. His time is done. It's over. And they should have somebody in there that can at least, represent the country properly. But then again, look at us. We've got somebody like Trudeau who's, well-liked because he got elected. He's, he can just whip off anything right off the tip of his tongue. Doesn't matter what question he's asked. He can avoid questions just like that. Professional politician. But yet, he's still doing things that are really, really affecting the people in this country, and he's bringing on an awful lot of hate from the people of this country based on the things that he's doing to the people in Canada. So even if you are a polished politician, you can still screw up massively like Trudeau has.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the whole thing is with Biden, he hasn't done anything for how many 40-something years that he's been in office already. And people thought he was going to do something now. It was just because they wanted to get rid of the scary orange man. It's literally stupid.
Yeah, I can't have any mean tweets, right? Hey, you guys, I saw you got rid of that troll. I was trying to jump in and tell you he was there, but there's a book that Glenn Beck put out called The Great Reset, and I just started reading it, and he's done some specials on the connections with the U.S. government has with Moderna and Pfizer, and that they're getting a lot of money from that. And also now Justin Trudeau has been shown to have connections with a company that makes something that goes in the vax, so they're all getting money from this. That's why they're pushing so hard for this. But then I posted a video in here yesterday with Klaus Schwab saying how proud he is of Justin Trudeau. So it's right in front of our eyes. So how people can deny that this is coming from way higher up than either of our governments, I don't know how they can't see it.
It's not that they don't see it, it's that they've been programmed not to question.
No one has the time to do their research, and they rely on mainstream media. That's the problem. Even education has been dumbed down.
I agree, Rocky. I'm an exercise scientist and dietitian, and I've been a professor for about 10 years. And it's sad to see the things that are taught. And I teach health stuff, so I'm not involved with a lot of like political stuff to teach. But even the health stuff that our government has passed on and told us to teach, I ended up telling my students, this is what I'm supposed to teach you, and this is what I do. So they don't really match up.
Well, I don't know about where you're at, Kim, but here in Oregon, and I think it was even in California, it might be across the whole United States, changing our normal, how do you come to figures in math, to this obscure common core math that even if you know the answer and you put the right answer and you don't show the common core way of getting the answer, it's wrong. What the heck are we teaching these kids?
Yeah, it's sad. Thank God everything that's happened has made so many people pay attention.
They don't want educated people because they'd be harder to control. They'd be too much on the ball.
Yeah, that's very true. That's why they're dumbing down society and the masses are falling for it.
School's purpose is basically to create good little workers who show up on time, take breaks on time, don't ask questions, don't think for themselves. Creative thinkers are punished.
Sounds good.
Cave. Welcome.
How many trolls did we have today?
There's been a couple, but they haven't really been that aggressive today.
So I have a question. All these people that were arrested and the ones that are supported and being marked as terrorists right now under the Emergency Act, what happens to the charges after they don't pass this? If they don't pass it, what happens to all those charges? Don't they become invalid and void?
I've been giving some thought to the ones that they've been picking up and dumping off down the road. I heard a couple of them, and some of the other ones have just said they've just been released. My guess is with that, in the U.S., I think the reason they're doing that there's not even going to be a charge on some of these people, is when they're grabbing them out of a line, You got one officer that said, "Oh, I'm going to just grab this guy." He throws him back to the other one. You don't have a written report or a reason of why that person was apprehended or arrested. So how do you go back to the original officer when you don't, and charge a person if you don't have the original officer that grabbed the person? So there's no chain of custody on that arrest. These other ones that they've actually filed, it's really hard to say what's going to happen with those. They'll probably just run them through and prosecute people on them, I would think. Depends how these judges want to be, how left-sided they are.
You need to watch that video, Mike, about the cafe that Kim posted. I mean, it's like, seriously?
Yeah, I saw that earlier. I watched it about an hour before she had actually posted it. I just never got a chance to mention anything on it. And I was busy doing some other stuff, so I didn't throw the link up there myself.
Yeah, it's funny. The business didn't have to close because of the truckers. The business was forced closed by Trudeau's goons.
So what happens to the businesses in the red fenced-off zone since no one can go into that area? They're losing money too. Didn't the government think of that?
They don't care. They had those businesses closed since day one of the convoy. There was only a few businesses that defied the government, but that's why now the government is going back through and saying, we're here to inspect you. They're going to make their life hell.
Exactly, TK, and that's what scares me the most for these businesses and these people. Even the ones who are arrested, if they take their name, they're probably going to go after them later, financially or otherwise.
Yeah, the Whistle Stop Cafe owner was on, did a live stream yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw it, but he had gotten home. He left with his truck, got home, and made a video of saying he was spending time with his kids and his pets and getting some rest before he's certain to be arrested.
And that's exactly why they're trying to paint Tamara as a terrorist.
Well, I don't know if you saw saw my comment from late last night, early this morning, but one of the articles that I think it was you shared, they're basically pinpointing her as the head person of the convoy and making her the pinpoint person. And that Tom guy that's been the spokesperson through this thing for most of it said his bank accounts have been frozen, but yet he hasn't been charged. But then again, the police department told Pat King that he wasn't, there was no warrant for his arrest either, and then they turn around and arrest him. So they're not going to tell you if there's really a warrant for your arrest. They're just going to arrest you.
Not only that, but Tom Razzo said also his credit cards were blocked and his wife's credit score went down 100 points.
And she had to change her last name on Facebook. Yeah, they are going to destroy you. They will destroy you, and they are going to destroy your ability to, for livelihood and everything, because they want you to suck off of the government's tit. Plain and simple. I watched a video a while back of these two Americans that went to Cuba and they took a drone, and the drone was immediately confiscated by the Cuban government. And then they had a hidden video cameras still as well, and they videotaped how people sit in line for days, sleeping in their cars and in line for days to get into a country-run grocery store that is locked behind not hidden gates, but iron gates. And you go into the store, and the protein that you can get, the meat that you can get, are the single-serve hamburger patties that you would get at like a Dollar Tree or something like that. That's your protein source. That's the only protein source that was in this video. They had shelves and shelves of beans and rice and things like that. But those single-serve patties were your only source of protein in the store, and they were very expensive. And by the way, at the end of it, they had to go to the American consulate to be able to get out of the country.
What country was that?
Cuba. Oddly enough, a country where Canadians are allowed to go and Americans are not.
Know if Facebook has lost any more viewers since the convoy in Ottawa has pretty much stopped?
Yeah, I'd like to know what their stock prices are doing too. I know they were crashing.
I don't think there's been any official reports lately. And you want to know where that $20 million is going to come from out of that link where the government's going to be paying all those businesses? From the seized bank accounts and sale of assets. Facebook has already put a cover over the video and makes you have to say see video to see it.
Which video is that, TK? The restaurant one?
Also, anybody that's new to the room, I believe the mic is opened up to everyone now.
Yes, Kim.
Anybody new in here that wants to hop on the mic and introduce themselves? Tell us where you're from.
Hi, good day. I'm from British Columbia. Very proud of all the truckers and support staff, and my children and grandchildren are very happy. Everything went along there. Can't believe what the government did with those United Nations troops doing to our people, citizens, women, children. I guess we got a lot of good people there, and they all got pushed out. What happened to the vehicles and the food and the stuff that the Canadians donated to the people? And I think this movement, as a Canadian, I look around and totally agree. MSM, whatever, mainstream media is deceiving the people. But looking around, you know, the governments are short of cops and stuff. That's why they bring this in. But I see it going on in the States as well. So I think this thing is going to get bigger than it gets smaller. So the future looks bright for our children, and we will do everything we can in our power. And believe you me, I believe this is just getting going. But I would really like to know what happened to the truck, especially that one there on main stage where everybody went up on stage and sang and stuff, and all those.
So basically, Dwayne, what happened is a good percentage of the trucks that they kept, depending on which ones they were, they would release when the owner went to get them out of impound after they got done being arrested, and others they are not releasing. So I think it just depends on where the trucks were positioned and you know, how the operator cooperated and whatnot. But as far as the food and stuff like that, I saw quite a large pile of things, clothes, toiletries, things like that on one of the live streams that was piled up literally outside of a church next to the curb. So I'm sure that's probably what happened to some of it, and the rest of it, like the one tent that I saw that had been thrown over possibly by the wind, but also was all the food and things like that were just thrown on the ground. The police will throw all of that away. They won't reuse any of it. They won't put it towards the homeless or anything. It'll all just be thrown away and wasted. That's what they did in other protests.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm very concerned, and thank you so much for everyone being here, you and everyone else. I believe you're from Alberta. I'm from BC here, and we have meetings every week, and thank you for being here from my family.
I'm from the States myself, but I have spent half my life back and forth between Canada because I am also Canadian.
Last night, a video from Coventry was looking very, very bare with just a few people around a fire, hardly any tents, no big trucks, just like campers and four-wheelers.
Yeah, and it looked like somebody was there in a pickup truck loading up all the leftover jerry cans of diesel.
This movement has woken up the world. I was watching a live feed yesterday from Port Coquitlam where the safety minister, Mike Farnsworth or whatever his name is, they found his house and they're all around her with flags, and I guess this Mike has a husband. I'm not sure what the husband's name is, but they're all around his house, and you can bet his house will be up for sale today. They're all yelling at him, "Come on out, Mike, come on, let's have a barbecue." It was very funny to see, and we got to hold these people up to you know, we got to hold these up. They're people just like us, and they have to treat us like humans. Thank you.
Does anybody have an update on the Peace Bridge? I'm here on the USA side. We got it blocked off now.
Which one are you talking about? Fort Erie? Fort Erie Peace Bridge there?
No, New York, Buffalo.
Yeah, copy that. No, haven't heard anything about anything being blockaded there today.
Well, Chris Sky just posted something about it, video on the USA side, not Canadian truckers, U.S. truckers, I guess, on their side blocking it.
News might be a good source to get information on that one.
Well, I was on 2 live feeds for it, and they're all offline, so I haven't been able to get any actual video feeds.
Big herd driving cocks wanting to be sucked.
How screwed up a life do you really have to have that's your only goal to do is come on a communication device and play that over the airwaves? Man, that's a screwed up head. I hate to be inside that brain.
Well, it really disturbed me after hearing that so many times. I decided to look it up, and let me tell you, I wish I didn't.
Well, that's amazing. That's all they know as well. They can't come up with anything better.
Okay, the room is locked down now because that guy forced the room into lockdown. That's your Antifa Ram Ranch. What else can we call him? Antifa Ram Ranch, Mark, McBurger, pretty much everybody there. But anyways, the room is locked down now, so you can talk if you're a mod, if you have a little star beside your name. Otherwise, you'll have to just listen and type in the text there.
I thought the same thing, Queen. There's a Bulldog, some Ryan Bulldog 84 that you might want to look at too, what he's texting.
Yeah. Well, it happened. It happened. You can't say it didn't happen because it did happen. Well, yeah. Well, we all know that Trudeau supported BLM because he actually walked in their march. Trudeau is BLM, I think. He supports BLM. So I don't know what's with that guy. Why would the leader of a country do something so despicable? But yet he doesn't support freedom. You know, the convoy is out for freedom. So Trudeau doesn't want freedom. In fact, he's the one that's got the country locked down at a federal level, and he just wants it to stay that way. So be a good Canadian.
Support the message behind BLM, and I support BLM, but I don't support the rioting and the politicians that were calling for people to get violent and beat the police and, you know, steal and all that kind of stuff. That part of it I didn't support, but I definitely support like having equal rights for everybody. But I mean, their protests over in the U.S. especially just got way out of hand, and I don't support the rioting side of it.
Yeah, copy that. Well, in Canada, what happened, at least I know in Edmonton, what happened is at the BLM protest in Edmonton, the BLM Antifa basically chased the police right off the streets, and the police ran. That's what happened.
In Ottawa, they were fine. Like, it was quite a peaceful affair. And I know the one here where I am, it was very peaceful. There was no incidents whatsoever.
I think what you have to know, Miller, is that Black Lives Matter, the core movement, I think that's the one that we all agree with. We know that everybody's lives matter, no matter what color you are, but then the organization of BLM definitely took over that movement and basically trashed their message.
Was very muffled.
Oh, sorry. I think my sleeve was over my microphone. I was just saying that the original Black Lives Matter, small BLM, was, small letters BLM was a good thing, even though we all know everybody's lives matter no matter what color you are. But then the organization of BLM, who are Marxists, they definitely just kind of trampled on that original movement and took it over.
Support the original movement, which is about making sure that everybody was considered equal, which, I mean, really, in the U.S., there is definitely people that are not considered to be equal. And even here in Canada, too, like I've worked with people of color, and they say they get pulled over by the police far more than any of their white friends do. And it's sometimes just to check on them.
If you look at the actual crime statistics, though, and statistics about that in the U.S., that doesn't pan out. It's not true.
Well, I'll give you a tip about living a successful life, and that would be do not go out, stay home. If you go out places, then you're more apt to be pulled over by the police and have some kind of interaction. If you stay home, that won't happen. So you'll notice that the only time that people really have any interaction with police is when they're not at home, when they're out doing things, good things or bad things. And there's an awful lot of bad people out there, and the police are looking for an awful lot of bad people, and a lot of times they'll pull you over while they're looking for a bad person, and you just happen to be there. So try and stay home as much as you can. That's my tip of the day.
You know what the other thing is, Les? Like I've always told my kids, if you're not doing anything wrong to cause you to have a police encounter, you're probably going to be fine. And if you do happen to have a police encounter, then you put your hands on the steering wheel and be polite and don't give them a reason to cause you any grief.
Just to cut in there, I'll tell you something happened to me yesterday. I have some ongoing police issues. One to do with a sexual assault that happened to me when I was in school. And another one because I feel like I was put aside for an assault with a man that was angry with me on a road rage incident. The cop that was dealing with me basically told me, you instigated it, so we dropped it. And I was like, oh, so because I instigated something that gave that man who was 6'5" a right to assault me. So anyways, that's an ongoing thing. I go to get food. I ordered food yesterday. They messed up my order terribly, and I was very upset. I showed up there because they wouldn't answer the phone call. I get home after they made it right, and the cops called me because it got heated between us at the restaurant. And I'm like, okay. So then I called the cops back, and I said, you're going to waste your time calling me about a food complaint where I got upset about something, because when I pay for my food, I expect what I pay for. And you're going to call me on that, but you won't deal with these other two major issues, and haven't heard from you guys for like 4 months. I said, don't waste your time calling me. You have other things to do. And I couldn't believe it. And yeah, they haven't called me back.
Yeah, that's because they don't want to hear about it. That's acceptable. What you did is not acceptable. Our society is so backwards, it's not even funny.
And just remember, according to Mr. Trudeau, it's wrong to show your patriotism and fly Canadian flags.
Hey, Queen, I just want to say I'm sorry those things happened to you. Had some things myself, so I know that's not easy. But, yeah, the cops just seem to want to address the things that are easier. But on the other hand, too, people, you can't even look at them cross-eyed, it seems, nowadays, before they want to cause you trouble or cause you harm.
Social media for part of that. I think a lot of people have forgotten how to actually talk to other people because they're so used to just doing it and texting on Facebook or something.
Absolutely. Keyboard warriors. Yeah, 4.
And you know, you're right. Even if you ask somebody for help, you need gas or your car needs a boost or anything, some of the people that I've dealt with are the most ignorant people over something so simple.
See somebody in trouble on the side of the road, we just stop and help. It doesn't matter if it's a mental health issue or somebody, running out of gas and not knowing where the nearest gas station is.
Oh yeah, same here. If I see somebody walking down the road, I'll stop and pick them up. No problem. Like, I don't know, people just drive by, not even give a hoot.
Girl one day over the summer, she was wearing cardboard for shoes, and she had stolen somebody's bike and was trying to get away from a situation, and was going to take her the bike, that stolen bike, and go to the nearest city, which was 2.5 hours away driving.
And it's funny, out of everybody that I saw in that convoy, or the protesters, a lot of them seemed like they would have helped you with anything you would have asked.
And it's kind of a catch-22 though, because I know of a lot of people, Les, you'll be able to back this up. On the QE2 here in Alberta, people that try to help people and stuff, it seems like we've had a lot more negative things happen. So, people have just changed. When I was growing up, and my mother, she used to, travel across Canada, hitchhiking with me and my little brother when we were little, because you could. Nowadays, you just can't. So it's kind of hard, you know what I'm saying? And that's why the whole mask thing, being able to, look at people and give yourself a feeling of character from their looks on their face, that's just been taken away with this mask mandate. So that's a hard one. To me, that's a hard one.
Big herd throbbing cocks wanting to be sucked.
Oh yeah, for sure, I agree with you.
You take one.
Do you know if there's a Quebec group?
I think there is actually. I've seen it posted before. I'm not too sure. Maybe just put in convoy to Quebec and see if it comes up.
Yeah, you don't want to get into the plus one. That's just all bogus stuff in there.
Did you totally see me working my cut-off shovel dowel there on that Ram Rancher? Yeah, buddy, come at me more.
Yeah, just a note. There's something called Convoy East 2, and that is a rogue group where the moderators jumped away from this group and started up their own group. So we do not like to push information about rogue groups out there. So if anybody says anything about East 2, then you'll be bounced out of the group here.
There's a convoy to Quebec, but there's like 6 people in it.
Yeah, in all honesty, people, if you're looking for another group, just put convoy to whatever and you'll find some, we're just convoy to Ottawa, convoy west and convoy east over here.
Yeah, basically, instead of, stringing people out over on convoy west, convoy Coots, convoy east, convoy plus whatever, we've kind of consolidated everything down to convoy to Ottawa. So this is kind of the one channel that's kind of open for all kind of discussion about any kind of a convoy anyway. But remember, no illegal talk. If you're going to say something that is absolutely illegal, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So know what the laws are, especially with the emergency situation on in Canada. Consider this emergency to be valid and in force. So there are certain things you can say and you cannot say with an emergency. So do your research and be careful of what you say. Well, basically, as far as convoy east, there was a guy by the name of Newfoundland who was a very controlling guy who wanted to control everything. So he basically started up his own group and took everyone from convoy east over to his new group, which I guess he's still over there. I don't know. I'm not a part of that group. So whatever. Things get strung out all over the place. So really all we're trying to do is just say, hey, there's one group here that is kind of the original Zello channel. This is the original Zello channel for a convoy to Ottawa, which was set up just for chit-chat for anybody that wanted to say something about going to Ottawa, whether you happen to be a trucker or sitting at home, just for general chit-chat. So this is the original channel.
Welcome to the Cum Zone. Only come inside Anime Girl.
Triple mole whack, I think.
I like the action on that one. That was funny. See, just because the guy has a name of Canadian Pat 65, that doesn't mean that he's a real Canadian, but, a real supporter of freedom. He's more interested in lefty type stuff.
Yeah, he's all ticked off that he's living down in mommy and daddy's basement. Failed his junior and senior year. He's got to go back and get his GED. Yeah, poor kid. He's be working in a freaking grocery store bagging shit for the rest of his life.
Well, actually, I think there's an article in the Rolling Stone magazine that indicates that the Ram Ranch is the new, I guess you could say, mantra of the Antifa group across North America. So the Ram Ranch Antifa, yeah, you're going strong. Oh, the police are now hassling the protesters. You can check out the action on twitch.tv/presspad.
Darn it, man. I still can't get on there. Won't let me use a password.
10-4, I'm streaming on there.
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier. When I get home tonight, I'll try doing it on my computer, see if I can make an account there. Kind of frustrating. Like I said, I tried doing it the other day and I just got frustrated after 20 minutes of trying to make up a password. It wouldn't accept. I mean, I was up to almost 15, 16 characters. I'm like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, copy that. Yeah, I use a password saver called RoboForm. RoboForm. It costs me a few bucks every year for that. And that thing saves all my passwords on all my devices. And it has a password generator, which, will create a string that you don't want to have to remember or even have to type in. But, yeah, that usually works out pretty good first time. But anyways, yeah, give it a shot.
Well, the password, I mean, I got them all mine set to little lowercase A, B, C, D, and then uppercase E, F, G, H, I. And I got a couple, I think I got 6, 4, 5 for my numbers, and 4 or 5 exclamation points. Oh my God, did I just give out my password? Oh, crud.
I know, I hate that. It's like it rejects it, and then it says, it must contain this, and this, and you're going, holy shit, what did I type in there? And then you type something in there, and then the second thing it says, okay, now retype it in again, and you go, holy crap. Well, that was so complicated the first time, and I don't remember what I typed in the first time. Man, what a police state. Like, I'm watching these guys right now, and there's 2 cops. They're not even in the red zone. They're protesting outside of the red zone, and the police are still hassling everybody. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4 cops there trying to tell this guy where to go, what to do, how to do it. Unbelievable.
And people are seeming to be accepting of this behavior of a police state.
I would have.
Well, I want to know how much these guys are getting paid. I heard a number of $4,000 plus expenses per day. I heard that yesterday, so I'm just whipping that out here. I don't know how true that is, but that's an awful lot of money per cop per day.
I would have figured after the experiences of people at the Olympics in China, some of these people would start waking up and be like, oh, maybe I was wrong,
Well, they're very obedient in China, because you saw you don't go anywhere. You don't give a speech. You don't do anything without putting a mask on there.
Well, I watched the video. It showed the guy. He's like, he didn't have his face, shown in any sense, and they had his identity right as they were going up to that machine, and he was freaked out. Did a stream. You would figure these people would start waking up,
Sorry about that last troll, guys. I was in the shower. I'm here now. Let's go.
I had to lock the room down as soon as we had one rancher in there.
I've never heard of this ranch society thing. I don't know. I guess my life's too boring.
Well, I hate to say it, but I think it's something homosexual related. I'm not sure, though. I haven't investigated it, but I don't even want to investigate that kind of stuff, unfortunately. People can do whatever they want to do, but, don't start spouting off stuff in a public channel. Oh, my God.
Do not even go Googling it. Just don't do it.
Oh, there, buddy. Nothing offends me. I was married to a liberal for 16 years, man. I've unfortunately heard it all, lived it all, seen it all. Yeah, nothing shocks me anymore.
So what you're saying is that if you're liberal, you think the same as him? Like, I know you can like some of the things the person likes, but not all of them. So if you're liberal, has that been straight across the board from the beginning, or did this change with Trudeau is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, yeah, you're either right wing or left wing, and let's face it, if you're right wing, the left wingers called you a far right extremist, whatever, right? And if you're a left wing, you're simply an Antifa liberal. Really, there's two sides to this whole equation.
Well, I'd always heard left wing and right wing, and I honestly didn't know it because I honestly only started voting the first time Trudeau was in because he was going to legalize pot. But I ended up going and ruining my ballot anyways because I didn't feel right about it. I didn't know enough. And as a Canadian, you're supposed to know what you're voting for, and I didn't. So I actually just ruined the ballot and went. The next year, I did vote because I started to see things. And I voted Conservative even though I wanted to vote PPC, Maxime Bernier, because my old man told me, if you want him out, you have to go with the majority. Then we work on it after. So you have to vote PC because they're the only ones that will take him out. So I did. And this next election, man, I just can't wait for it.
Okay, what you said is exactly correct. And it's the truth, and you're thinking straight. And that's where it is. If you want to get rid of the NDP Liberals, then you have to vote Conservative. And you can't split the vote by voting PPC and whatever else there might be. PPC has some good things, good party. Everything that they talk about is great. But unfortunately, they're too small. They won't get into power, and if you vote for them, you're actually throwing your vote away. Because really, to get rid of the Liberals and the dippers who are pretty much in tow, then there's only one choice, and that's to vote Conservative. So either you're lefty Antifa or you're pro-freedom Conservative. Take your choice, people.
I like what Australia's done. They constructed a whole new party for the people, by the people, because both their parties are taken over. They're corrupted, and I think pretty much every party all around the world is all corrupted. I think everybody's got to construct their own new party for the people, by the people.
Have a party here. It's called the Veterans Party of Canada. I don't know if they're still operating or not, but they did try to form the party, and it's called the Veterans Party of Canada.
Okay, so I'm going to be moving more over to Twitch press pad over there, and I'll be doing voiceover on that channel and checking that out. But I gotta figure out some stuff here. I gotta figure out how to do voiceover and do slides over with stuff like that. So I gotta go and get a little bit of education here. Anyways, that's beside the point. But you guys, I'm going to be out of here for a bit. You guys look after things. I think the voice is locked down. Only mods can talk. Anyone can type. So if anyone types offensive stuff, mods, if you can delete and block that person, that'd be good. Not delete them, but block them. Can't delete their comment, unfortunately. But anyways, good talk. Good chat here this afternoon. Keep it up.
Yeah, good talking to you here too. I'll be diving out in about 15 minutes or 10-15 minutes, going to a family function. So I'll have a good couple hours of reading to get caught back up on stuff, but I'll be asking you guys for an update later.
Yeah, actually, we can give you an update right now, or give everyone an update. What's happening is there is a red zone, a communist red zone, completely around the downtown area of Ottawa. It's a no entry, it's a no-go zone, unless you live in that area or have a reason to be there. The protesters are assembling on the southeast corner of the red zone. Southeast corner. If you know where the War Memorial is, that's where the protesters are located. And there's a couple hundred protesters out there. The police are out there talking to them. and they're not being arrested or anything. But hey, it's okay to protest in Canada. It's just not okay to go into the red zone in Ottawa.
And they're not handing out beatings today? Come on. I heard there was like 15 guys put a deposit down on a good beating today.
Well, they had to head over to Home Depot to get some new dowel bats because the other ones probably were all broken from yesterday.
So as far as I know, Canada doesn't have voting machines, correct? And I'm asking because there's been so much information coming out, not only about the voting machines here in the U.S., but the other things that they've done, stuffing ballot boxes. And there's a movie coming out soon called 2,000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza, where they traced the people by their cell phones and have them on camera stuffing ballots, and they were paid like $10 a ballot. So a lot of them made a lot of money. But so even if Canada doesn't have the machines, there are a lot of other things that they can do to cheat. And here in the States, the AGs, the Attorney General, has changed laws illegally, really close to the election. So no time to fix that before the election. And partly the reason I'm asking is because I know that Trudeau got only 20% of the vote, or the popular vote, so I don't know how he ended up winning the election again.
His party got more seats, but if you want to see how our voting works here, I'll just tell you to go and look up Rebel News on YouTube and look up Rebel News going to voting stations, and they'll show you what they did and just how easy it is to go and vote and not be a registered voter.
Wow, yeah. So I figured it was something probably similar to what they did here. And they had so many different ways of doing things here, including when the system was overwhelmed and Trump got so many votes shutting down the voting. So I don't know if that happened there at all, but it seems like they're using a lot of the same tactics.
Dressed as a Muslim woman, completely covered from head to toe, and voted. She was the person was not asked to remove any of their face coverings, not to prove any ID, nothing. They were able to go in and vote. They were able to go in a few minutes earlier without the get up on, and vote, but they were asked for ID. Like the person that went in plain faced was asked for ID. The person that was dressed as a Muslim woman, completely covered head to toe, was not.
Wow, it's insane. It's the good thing about all of this is that so many more people are paying attention and to the elections and everything else. So I don't think they counted on this, waking everybody up to the point where we're gonna have our noses in everything now.
Hey guys, I was just looking at a live there. I just woke up and had a shower and I'm catching up here. Is that correct that they're on the outskirts of Ottawa now? Were they able to keep everybody out? Like, can somebody update me on that?
That's what Les was just saying, Queen, that they have, like, he's calling it the red zone in Ottawa, and they're even harassing protesters who are outside of that zone now. And I posted a video earlier, a Facebook video of a restaurant where the doors were locked and there were people inside, and the cops were threatening to bust down the door.
The last two elections here in Alberta, people I know very well were denied the right to vote because they're mask exempt. They would not let them vote in either of the federal or provincial election.
I'm just headed out and I'm behind too on what's going on, but I'll go through the other messages